This presentation was delivered by small forest landowners Merc Boyer and daughter Rachel at the WFFA annual meeting in Tacoma, Washington on April 29, 2024.
Boyer Family Forestland, Management for Wildlife. To begin, we will share a brief family background and history. Nina and I married in 1980. My new partner and I went right to work planting Douglas fir trees. 44 years later, we're still together, living and working on our tree farm, and still planting trees. In our 70s, practicing sustained family forestry. Dad passed on his passion for growing trees and conservation. My grandpa and namesake, Morris Boyer, sold me my first parcel of forest land. Our Boyer family traces back 6 generations to the 1870s in Grays Harbor County. Here is our Porter Tree Farm and family home since 1986. And here is our crop of kids, Rachel, Kelly, and Bryce, over those years. This is my favorite view over the Chehalis River Valley. And this shows additional family forest land in Lewis and Pierce County. Right up front, I want to recognize several valuable family forestry support entities. Washington's DNR Small Forest Land Owners Office and the federal NRCS. Washington State University's Extinction Forestry Program and local conservation districts. But also, so importantly, WFFA. All of us coming together, providing tours, seminars, webinars, and field days. People sharing their passion, growing trees, sustainable forestry, good stewardship. Here are the 4 pillars of the Washington Tree Farm Program and what I call the WFFA way. Today, we'll focus on water and wildlife. Kelly Creek feeds our wildlife pond, with Island, seen here, as well as other wetlands. Home to fish, otters, beavers, and waterfowl. This riparian management zone at Porter has 2 FREP contracts to protect essential ecosystems. Water attracts wildlife, and we have all kinds of wild critters in all sizes. Here's a bobcat after dark, a coyote on alert, deer in a territorial fight, a black bear on the move, an elk on what we call the wildlife highway, a cougar on the prowl, even an unidentified creature, perhaps a tree farm trick-or-treater. Wildlife issues. Beavers are logging in our riparian buffers without a DNR cutting permit. We have bear damage and porcupine problems too. Deer browse is by far our biggest problem. Today, we use mostly Vexar tubes. Here is mouse girdling, more bear stripping, deer rubbing, and mountain beaver damage. Our attitudes have evolved to practical mitigation measures and a certain degree of toleration. As a fellow tree farmer recently remarked, the critters were here first, Merc. Here's how we are managing wildlife through biodiversity. This is our inventory of native vegetation at Porter. Acting from a holistic perspective, we are managing to maintain the natural flora. I've learned that a diversity of wildlife requires a diversity of plants and landscapes. Currently, we are nurturing 16 of these 21 Northwest native plants for wet soils, and about 18 of these native plants for wildlife habitat. The biodiversity of all these plants form the base of the food chain wildlife depend on. Following is a sampling of native flora providing pollen, nectar, berries, seeds, and nuts. This is fireweed, a great pollinator plant. Red currant, devil's club, salmonberry, and elderberry. Wild dogwood, Indian plum, blackberry, and skunk cabbage. Wild bitter cherry. Wild hazelnut. Bees love this early season pollinator. We also strive to care for wild mushrooms and other fungi. The underground interactions we can't see have great ecological value. Again, we aim to promote biodiversity. For plant identification, we have found the app Picture This very helpful. Our wildlife management practices have continued to evolve over the years. I have long enjoyed burning, but am burning less now. Today, we're actually creating some habitat piles. For wildlife, messier can be healthier. We're preserving old snags and creating new ones by girdling. I've grown to appreciate the ecological value of deadwood and debris. Where we had serious root rot in our Doug fir monoculture stand, we logged and are now planting mixed species units for healthier forests and habitat. For added diversity, we've been planting giant sequoias since 2004, and they are thriving. We are also growing coastal redwoods. Nina's grandparents inspired me with this redwood, far right, they planted just outside Olympia back in 1960. Propagation Nation is a key supportive partner in our ongoing redwood projects. I have a lifelong friend that is passionate about birding. I asked him to visit our tree farm in 2022. After an initial reluctance, he finally agreed. However, once on our tree farm, his excitement was self-evident. To paraphrase, Merc, you've got fantastic habitat. This is a bird sanctuary. Very impressive. That was a big surprise to me. In 8 years ownership, I had only noticed perhaps a dozen different birds. I obviously wasn't tuned in, but he was. In 2 days, my friend identified 46 bird species. He raised my awareness, opened my eyes and ears with keen listening, quality binoculars, and the Merlin Bird ID app. Nina and I were thrilled. Wow, 46 bird species have chosen to make our little 20-acre tree farm near Randall their home or haven to visit regularly. We were told that with such a wide variety of trees, shrubs, and landscapes, including open spaces, we had tremendous biodiversity. This quote resonates with me. The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. Let the sunlight in. With enhanced open spaces such as our wildlife meadow, my friend believes we can increase our bird population significantly, and that is our goal. We now have 54 different tree and shrub species growing for timber and wildlife. They include fruits, nuts, and flowering ornamentals. We are creating a smorgasbord, a buffet for birds and wildlife. So, why my friend's initial reluctance to visit? To paraphrase, I thought your tree farm was going to look like this. You just don't find many birds in a monoculture stand. Birds are important to the ecosystem. They serve as seed dispensers, pest controllers, and pollinators. With raised awareness, we now avoid pre-commercial thinning during the nesting season. Note the Merlin ID app we use in the bottom right-hand corner. And now, here's the next generation, our daughter, Rachel.
Mom and Dad intentionally raised my sister Kelly, my brother Bryce, and myself in the country on our Porter tree farm. They wanted us to be connected and closer to family, like my great-grandma Boyer and my grandpa, who we also called Papa Q. The tree farm was a great place for growing up with animals. The tree farm provided the perfect opportunity to be close to nature and wildlife. Here is my brother Bryce catching a cutthroat trout and hauling firewood. I enjoyed building forts. Growing up on the tree farm had a profound impact on who I am today. One of my favorite things to do is to admire the diversity of native florals and wildlife as the seasons change. My sister Kelly has a passion for growing flowers. She enjoys sharing her beautiful blooms with others, including native pollinators. Here's the list of 18 pollinator plants and their bloom times for bees. We currently have 84% of these plants growing on our tree farm. Mom has been keeping bees since 2016, and she has helped Kelly establish hives on her tree farm. I'm hoping to start some too. There are 2 jars of Mom's honey in today's raffle. Dad says he's learned a great deal about conservation from Mom's beekeeping. Nurture your bees and they will thrive and provide. Take only what you need. Leave enough honey for winter survival. If you exploit the honey supply or you overharvest, the hives will often die. It is a nutshell lesson in conservation. Speaking of lessons, as a teacher, I enjoy sharing my love of nature with students, getting kids outside, connected, and engaged. Learning such things as the importance of water quality, fish habitat, and salmon migration, and planting more trees, restoring ecosystems. After all, we are families in forestry, stewards of the land, managing forestland for more than wood, for water, for wildlife, and for our future generations. With gratitude, we thank the following people for their contributions to this presentation.